Hey, so I'm going to be doing a support VOD review today. I believe this is a mid-silver game, somewhere in silver 3 to silver 4 for lunathae. I already did a pre-watch of your VOD, kind of skipped around so far. I noticed, I think positioning right now is your biggest issue. You're constantly kind of putting yourself in harm's way very often and take a lot of unnecessary damage consistently throughout the game. Especially with Anna, Anna has a very long range, right? She has no damage fall off, and she's quite vulnerable to getting like dove or stuff like that. So your best bet to stay out of harm's way is outrange people, so they have to like waste multiple cooldowns to get to you, or to play out their damage fall off range where you still do full damage and full heals, right? Secondly, I think you have a problem with using your ults. I think you have a bad tendency to sit on your ultimates for much longer than you need to. Really, you should be looking to use your ultimates if your goal is to carry and climb. If you want to climb, you have to carry, or you have to find a group, right? As soon as possible in constructive ways, right? If you hang on to ultimates, there's a lot of times you can use 2 to 3 ultimates in the time that a lot of people, not necessarily you, I haven't really watched the whole thing yet, but just in general, there's a lot of people that use, especially in lower ranks, that use one ultimate, maybe all game, when they can literally use 5 to 6 in the time that they play the game, right? So something to keep in mind. And 3, I think you need to use your cooldowns a bit more, right? Kind of similar thing to ultimates, right? You want to use your offensive cooldowns as often as possible, to get entry picks for your team or get good nades on Anna or good sleeps. All these could result in kills, right? So like the more you use them and hit them, the more likely you are to switch the tide of a fight, right? So just something to keep in mind. And this is kind of the positioning thing I was talking about. On this map, you generally do not want to be set up on the floor. Look how close the Winston is to you already. If the Reaper teleported, they could already be on you. You actually want to be set up on high ground. Usually, you'll see Anna's set up here-ish. As they come in, right? Very early on, you could sometimes get damage like further up here, and as you see them walk, you can start backing up. Obviously, positioning depends a bit on the support you decide to play, but you usually want to be playing on high ground in positions where you're hard to reach, right? You're just sitting on the floor here, and like you're not getting caught, but now you're going to be in a bad position for the fight to when it actually starts, right? If your team wants to play forward, right, you can still support them by playing up here and being safe yourself. And you say your team just full wipes, it's going to happen sometimes, unfortunately, especially in lower ranks. They'll be playing in a bad spot. Do your best to help them from a position where you're as safe as possible, right? But don't make the mistake of playing in a bad spot with them, right? You want to develop good habits. Doing this is not good. Now it's going to take too long for you to rotate away if they just hard push your team. I'd like to also note how bad your angles are on the enemy team, right? I know they aren't peaking quite yet. But right now, you can only see them right as they turn the corner, right? But imagine if you were up here instead. Look how much more vision you have on the enemy team, right? And you outrange everyone on their team except their Anna too. So something to keep in mind, right? But now since you're here, you kind of have to play with your team on the floor, unfortunately. So I would have backed up a lot earlier here. I think at this point in this position you're in, your best shot at positioning somewhere is either like this corner here-ish or in this room. Because you want to be getting out before they take good angles on you, right? Like this Torb's already high ground, which is going to be a massive problem for you. You have no cover here, right? If he just starts shooting you, you're going to be in a bad spot, right? And another problem is sitting in the middle of the point, right? See how often you have to keep switching where you're looking around just to see where your teammates are? You want to do your best to keep everyone on your team in your LOS, as well as everyone on the other team in your LOS at all times, right? That way you don't have to keep losing focus of what's going on around you, and you can see people at all times. Here, if there's, I think you used your nade actually a little early here, right? I'll show you what I mean. So if you see Moira, unless you see her use her fade, right? Assume she has it. You're at full health, right? I mean, you're missing 4 health and you nade immediately, right? She's just gonna fade. That's not the maximum amount of value you could get out of your cooldown. If you want, you can try to sleep her here before she reacts, right? That's possible way to kill her. If you nade her, she's just gonna fade away, right? But if you sleep her, she might not react in time. And then you can, wait for your team to help you get the kill in the Moira, right? See, wasting both cooldowns in the Moira here when you know she's going to have fade is bad. And by wasting all this, being in a bad position, you can't pay attention to the Moira and your tank at the same time, right? So he's just going to die here. So here, you're down your tank. I mean, this point is basically over. You just have to kite as long as possible until your tank returns. You might be able to get a recontest. You should just not be fighting this here. See, since you're in a bad spot, now you have no cover from this bomb. Yeah, nothing you can do here because your position just wasn't good to begin with. You could have prevented dying to that bomb if you just backed up much sooner. Possibly. There's a lot more cover on second, so. Here, you could have probably didn't need to let your hog die, right? You have walls on your teammates, right? Maybe you don't know the map well enough, but he was like partially obstructed by the bushes, but you could have kept shooting him and healing him there and thrown a nade at him, right? Because I believe nade gives you 50% more healing. And you could have kept him alive there, right? If you stayed within your LOS and maybe naded, their Diva or Moira so he could get a pick, right? Here, no reason to walk in like this, right? You just saw their Diva was here, and their Moira may still be here, and you see a turret above, right? So and your tank is dead. There is no reason to be walking in here this aggressively, right? If you want to do this, again, too aggressive. You're walking too close. If they want to give you space like that, that's okay. And instead of walking all the way up to this corner, you should be fairly safe just spamming from back here, right? Your angles aren't any worse. You're further away from the Diva to prevent her from diving you, and you can still put pressure on the enemy team and heal your Reaper at the same time, right? You're playing almost like a tank, right? You do not want to be frontlining, more or less. Here, use the bubble that Zarya gave you to run away. Again, too close. Just back all the way up. You didn't need to use that nade. Instead of playing this corner, I think this corner is okay to play. I think instead of playing here, you'd actually have a much better angle here, right? Again, use your range to your advantage. Not only if you get pushed, you have an easier time running away, but you see them sooner as they turn the corner and can shoot them and your Zarya much sooner, right? So again, this is what I was talking about. You have nano, right? Imagine if you nanoed your Zarya here. She's already committed to the fight. Instead of wasting time healing her, right? Because nano heals for half the person's HP. She's very high charge. She's probably like 100-ish charge right now. If you just nanoed her when the Diva was in her face, she'd basically be unkillable. And you could start, using your cooldowns to try to get a sleep on the Torb or something. And throw a nade, and then your Zarya just kills her entire team, right? Oh, I guess you don't have your nade because you used it, but you can still sleep someone here, and you still could have nanoed. So, needless to say, don't sleep a matrixing Diva, and you nade too early here. You're still very high in health. You could have held off for just a second longer. Unfortunate. Again, don't walk in here. The Diva's in your backline, right? If your Reaper wants to go flank, you just have to let him do it and play safe yourself. Because now you're in a really bad spot because your Reaper died. Okay, so this is a bad nano. I think you do this out of panic, right? 2 people in your team are dead. I guess your Juno just respawned, but she's not here yet, right? Your entire team's running away, right? If your entire team, you have to read your team's body language, right? So if you see your Zara's backing up and the only person you know is close is a D.Va, because you saw her fly up here, for her to get, take no damage from the Zarya, all she has to do is hold S. Just literally like, a meter or two, and now the nano does absolutely nothing. And I also want to draw attention to how bad your positioning is. You see you have no cover here, and you're standing in the middle of their entire team. I think they have a spawner. I'm not entirely sure what that is, their spawn. But you see, like, you're probably just going to immediately die here. Yep, so. You could try to sleep the Torb there, but you're just in a really bad spot. Somehow your team turns that fight, but that is silver.
Not finished.
Don't worry, I'll be right behind you.
Enemy turret ahead. Enemy turret just blew up.
I'm not the biggest fan of Mercy with your team comp. You don't know they swapped Zarya. Actually, you may know if you swapped Tab. But like your only good DPS target is Junkrat. He kind of gets shot down by D.Va pretty hard, right? So you lose a lot of healing on Mercy compared to Ana. Nothing you really could have done to influence that fight. The only thing I'll say is, since they don't have a D.Va anymore, you would have been also okay just to, walk away and wait for your team to respawn. Because you died really late last fight, right? So, unfortunately, your entire team died without you. But that death really doesn't matter a whole lot. So I think alternatively, instead of flying in to the Genji, right? I know you wanted to save him. You could have probably played this corner right here and kept your beam on him and stayed out of, their LOS a bit more, right? Because now you're in a very vulnerable position and you're very likely just to die here. Okay, so needless to say, that's not a good res, right? If the Reaper's already shooting you, you can't go for a res there. You should have flown back to your Juno to try to get as much distance between you and the Reaper as possible, right?
I must return to my post.
I'm not particularly familiar with all of Mercy's mechanics, right? I can still point out kind of the general misplays you're making position-wise. Okay, so again, bad res. You're in the LOS of the entire enemy team, right? You just saw the Zarya here. I know you want to save your Reaper. Unfortunately, you can't because they are all already looking at you, right? Again, you see the Zarya here. She's the one that kills your Reaper, actually. Alternatively, if you already, accidentally pressed the button, you could have pulled out your gun and tried to kill the Moira, right? But ideally, you wouldn't have tried to fly in to save the Reaper from resing. Yeah, no reason to die.
Medical technology is truly extraordinary. We're outnumbered. Careful.
Okay, so you swap Kiri here. It's for last fight. So, right now, you saw the grav go off, right? You should be looking to see if the enemy Zarya grabbed anyone. And then if they start getting low in the grav, throw a Suzu at their feet, right? It gives them invuln for about like a second or so. And then also heals them. And then you can heal them at the same time, which makes it a lot harder for the Zarya to kill someone, right? You just kind of let her die. But your instinct should be immediately to look at the grav and see if she caught anyone, right? That's okay. I mean, you basically killed the Reaper there. I feel like it's okay. You're just kind of, your team's in a bad spot because your Reaper was dead, I believe, and you let your Juno die. So okay. So I will also say you swapped heroes a lot, especially at your rank. I would highly advise that you pick a few heroes that you like to play first and foremost, maybe like 2 or 3, and just try to stick with them and get as good as possible with them, right? If your goal is to climb, it's a lot easier to do it on a small pool of heroes than it is to swap, right? Okay, so small optimization, right? Use your movement cooldowns right out of spawn, because by the time you peek the enemy, you're gonna have them back, right? Especially on Illari, you know, her cooldown for jumps only like 6 seconds. No reason not to. Okay, so Bastion's very dangerous. He's a big skill check. If you see a Bastion in turret mode, my advice is to not peek him, right? You should be using, I know he kind of jumped down in an awkward time, but you should be using your outburst, I think it's called, whatever your whatever jump is, to get behind cover as soon as possible. If this guy just started shooting you, you'd like die before you just walk back to cover. You're kind of in an unfortunate spot. If your cast dies, it's kind of on him, right? Okay, so you guys got to pick. You should be looking to do something immediately, especially in Illari. She's very DPS focused as a support. She doesn't do a lot of healing, right? So you see their tank and their Mercy were top. That means the entirety of right side is uncontested, right? You can actually hear an Ana down here, right? What you can do is jump on the top of this bus or something to give yourself like decent cover and resistance to getting slept or whatever, and just start shooting this Ana and trying to kill her. Right, he'll be fine. Just imagine the difference in value you would have gotten. You're just too indecisive there. Unfortunately, Illari has no range on healing, right? If your team branches off from you, they're kind of on their own. You have to go take an aggressive angle and use your pylon to try to get kills, right? Okay. Important thing with Illari, you don't want to shoot that quickly. You do 0 damage. Wait for your thing to pretty much completely charge every single time you shoot, right? Yep, you can chase that kill. Her entire team just died in front of your face. So outburst in the corner, it's just a Mercy, right? And she's already at like 30 health. So you should chase your kill with your Juno. So it's stagger. Yeah, well, fortunately your Juno gets a kill. So as Illari, because your range is so bad, I would not be looking to play card, right? I would be looking to take an aggressive angle with your pylons. Here, you're exposing yourself a lot. If the Torb kept shooting you, he could have blown you up. You're not paying any attention to him, right? I'm fairly certain you can heal the Tsar from this corner. Right here, right? You can throw a pylon, like right here-ish, to give your Tsar some extra help. And you can also heal from here, right? No reason to expose yourself this much, because you just keep exposing yourself to unnecessary damage, right? You really want to minimize how much damage you take, especially as support, because you only have one other person to heal you, right? You have to be very cognizant of how much damage you take, because you can't just get double pocketed ever. So the turrets, I mean that turret, you can't shoot it, but it's not shooting anyone else, right? It's in a really bad spot. Instead of focusing on the turret and trying to get an angle on it, just shoot the Torb, right? If you kill the Torb, his turret's guaranteed to die. Again, if you were already forward and putting pressure on this Torb, like if you just outbursted on top of this thing here, right? You're fairly safe. as long as you have a pylon, right? You can help pressure the turret with Zarya or something. Obviously, a few seconds ago. Not necessarily right now, because the D.Va's here now. See how your Reaper's taking angles as well? You're just kind of not getting value here, because you're not shooting the enemy team. It's very important to always be trying to look for an angle as a yard, right? At least something. So here, you should be looking to fight this guy, right? If you see him flanking, it's kind of your job to deal with him, right? You're about to have your pylon and your Junos with you. You should win this 2v1, no matter what, right? Okay, no reason to outburst there. You weren't in any danger of dying. That could have been a little cleaner. That's alright. Again, shooting too quickly, right? You actually do not want to be fighting the D.Va. If you see the D.Va's left, you want to do your best to stay away from the tank at all costs. Force the tank to use cooldowns to do something about you, not the other way around. If the tank's not low, which you saw she wasn't, you do not want to be picking a fight with the tank. So now you're getting a ton of unnecessary damage. And remember, no one else, only one other person can heal you. So you eat all this damage and get killed by a random orb. I mean, you might think that's random, but you could play that way better, right? Instead of trying to run straight into this D.Va, you could have just played here, right? Played here, you have a better sightline on the D.Va. So she has to use her boosters if she wants to actually do any damage to you. Or alternatively, you could have outburst up here or something, right? So she has to definitely fly into you, and then you can just break LOS down here or something, right? You have a lot of options than fighting her in the open, right? Okay, so there's a different spawn in this map, by the way. Right behind you, it's faster than this one.
One healing, then hurry over. Show me your wounds.
Here, make sure you get your pylon set up somewhere.
I'll heal you. Enemy turret.
If the Reaper's in Wraith, I know you want to heal him, but throw your pylon. You have other stuff to do than just watch him try to exit Wraith, right? If he exits Wraith at a wrong time and just gets spammed by everyone, no amount of healing can save him, right? You should be looking to put your pylon down, right? That's a cooldown you can use immediately so it doesn't get destroyed. And then as, you know, while he's still Wraith, look for a target to shoot and then heal him when he comes out of it. Okay. I don't like this pylon because you see you're already pressuring forward. You could have pyloned, you know, somewhere forward, like maybe on that light post here, so it's hard to destroy, or in this corner, something like that, right? So it's helping your team take the next angle, right? Like they have a very bad chance of actually like stopping the card here, right? Look how long this sight line is for your team just to blow them up, and they have nowhere to escape. So, but I do like that you did use it. So here, again, you're kind of running into the tank, right? Do your best to always outrange the tank. You do not want to be fighting them. Okay, I like this ult. I'm pretty sure you waited for at least one bubble to get used, and you saw you use one earlier, so it's good timing. Unfortunately, the rest of your team uses their ults too, but I think that was just a very good opportunity for you to use yours actually. Here again, look for an aggressive angle. One thing you can do actually is play high ground, right? Illari has like not the best mobility, but you at least have like some high ground mobility, right? You can like jump up here and like slow them down coming out of spawn, right? And if they start to hard push you, no problem. Just drop and you're already out of their LOS, right? Or, you know, you could walk over here and play this far angle, right? There's multiple options. You don't want to be kind of sitting around and letting them in for free, right? When they walk through choke points, you need to be doing damage to them, right? And slowing down their push. Taking angles and making them worry about more things, right? Again, let your thing charge up. Just forget the Torp turret though. You need to be looking for actual picks because the Reaper just killed your cast, right? You can just completely ignore this Torp turret and just look to your right or something, right? I guarantee someone is here. Like your Reaper's actually fighting someone here, right? Actually, he just killed the Ana. I guess just killed the Torp maybe. Instead of just shooting the turret here, why don't you look at the Reaper or come with your Reaper and help fight the Zarya from behind and force the Zarya to split her attention. Remember at the beginning of the game when the Reaper was fighting your Reaper on point and your Hog was fighting their Diva and you had to keep doing this and everyone just died? Yeah, force the Zarya to do that, like, so she can't just choose one person. Okay, so I would just die as soon as possible here. Your tank died, you have no way of getting out. That's alright.
I spot a turret. What am I missing? Hurry up and move the payload.
Again, let your thing charge up, you know, do a lot more damage. It's pretty good. Again, you're getting too close to the tank here. Yeah, it was a good grab and a good nade, unfortunately. I wouldn't be too worried about this guy. You try to take an angle and they grab to win the fight, so it's okay. Obviously, needs to say, not a good pylon, right? Your team isn't able to fight there yet. Really, you needed a pylon a lot sooner on like the roof or this corner, not there. Don't shoot the Zarya here. I know she's going for your Rhine. You just have to kind of hope. Use his distraction to look for picks on their backline, right? If you look to your right, you can help your Reaper fight their backline, right? Imagine if you were shooting anyone over here. You're far more likely to kill anyone over here, especially with your Reaper's help. Because, one, you can shoot them. Two, you can heal your Reaper and help them, right? If there's Zarya that wants to run into your Rhine, whatever, there's really nothing you can do without exposing yourself like you did earlier, right? Like, imagine if you just walk like this. Now you're in LOS of literally everyone, right? Okay, yeah, everyone was kind of dead there, unfortunately. Team made a few mistakes. So I'll say, if going main is not working, again, you have like that fast vertical burst, right? Why don't you go up top, put a pylon like here, and start sniping their backline, right? You open up an angle for your team and force them to pay attention to you, which will help your team come through main. Alternatively, you can come through here and play this angle, right? You have the Mega here, you can put your pylon here. If they rush you, you just run away, right? If going main doesn't work, you have to try something else. It really hasn't worked the past few times, so. Too close here again, right? You're putting yourself in the middle of the team, kind of like the tank. Okay. You're just gonna die there because you're too close positioning-wise. This is not a good ult. You just respawn, they're gonna have all their cooldowns, right? And your team can't follow up on this, so. If your Rhine's in, you should be looking to get in. I'm quite sure what you're looking for. If your Rhine's peeking like that, it's not a good play for him to shatter. But you need to do something, right? Off his distraction, right? It's a bad play. Throw a pylon on the ceiling or something, or on the corner, and wide peek, right? And just start putting damage pressure down. If you peek that corner just a second earlier, right, you could be shooting that Moira just even a second earlier would double your damage on her.
Step right up.
You see what I was talking about with going above and your cast doesn't immediately get a kill? That's what you should be looking to do if you can. Right here. So there, just keep a little bit better track of your healing gauge, right? No. If your healing gauge is running out, throw down your pylon with your cast and just start trying to shoot. Again, I don't like that you're sitting cart, right? You should not be looking to sit cart most of the time. Go take an angle. You tried right side last time and it didn't work. So why don't you go try left? And I'll show you kind of like that you have a pretty good angle if you play right here, right? You have a pylon here that can't be destroyed, and look how many people you can shoot. If the Zarya decides to push you, no problem. You just literally back up like this, and you're safe. She can't, you know, come fight you here. I mean, she can if she like jumps up. But if she pushes you, right, you just hold S and outburst if she jumps up, right, so she can't catch up to you, and she just wastes her time, forcing you off the angle, right? And that gives your team a lot of presence front, right? If you have a tank on you on the off angle, that means your entire team main is uncontested, so. This is very important to do this kind of stuff on Illari because her healing is not very good sustained, right? Again, you wouldn't have to be like running out in the open if you just threw your pylon down, right? Your cast is already with your Juno. You know, you could have your pylon on this corner. You could have it on the corner where you're just standing, but walking out in the open like this is very, very dangerous. You see, get grabbed here. If you're playing on just the right side from the beginning, you wouldn't have gotten grabbed, at least not with your entire team. You would have forced the Zarya to either choose to grab your team or grab you, which makes it much more likely that you'll survive, right? Okay, so again, you know, I already think you know what I'm going to say. Go off to a different angle so you cannot see anything here, right? Look how bad this angle is. Let your tank play main and go fight somewhere else, right? Here you gotta start shooting. See, you're putting yourself in bad positions where you have to keep following your team all around. You should be looking to stay behind your team, right? Support pretty much all the time, so you don't have to keep doing this. I have a feeling if you just force yourself to stay behind your team, I mean not literally glued behind them, but like at an angle behind them where you can still see everyone. Right, just imagine if instead of standing here, you're standing on top of the cart, or even standing on this thing, or standing over here, right? You can see everyone on your team and everyone on the other team and make better decisions, right? What you're doing is you run in to follow your tank super hard, right? And now look how bad your information is, right? If you're looking straight at them from like here, where you're standing, right? You can see these guys, but you can't see the Torb, you can't see your Reaper, you can't see the Diva, you can't see Pylon, right? So you're just losing a lot of information because your positioning is so awkward. That's good. Slightly better aim when to kill the Ana. When you open up the kill for your Reaper. Okay, so that's the entire game. I think I'll reiterate kind of my top three. Actually, I may change the ult a bit. I think first and foremost, your positioning is really holding you back. Excuse me for a second. You see, you keep finding yourself almost like lost because you keep kind of running into the middle of your team, and you know, not respecting the enemy's team like range, right? So I want you to do your best to think if you can see everyone on your team. I mean, it obviously depends on what character you're playing, but you want to be behind your team or at an angle where your team is able to intercept you before the enemy team gets to you, right? It's obviously going to change depending on the character. Like on Zen, you can go, or Kiri, you can go for flanks. Ana, you definitely want to be playing that far away range, right? And you know, just keeping track of how close the enemy team is very important, right? I think point 2, I'd say, is you really need to, I guess, I don't know why I'm having such a hard time saying this. I'd say my second point is that you really need to, take better map control. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Okay, so you see how often you're playing main and kind of nothing's happening, right? It's actually best for you and your team if you take more angles and get better control of the map, because that splits up the attention of the enemy team. Of the enemy team. Sorry, right? So if they have more things to worry about, it's gonna be harder for them to make decisions, right? And you saw this first and foremost, right? And I'll go back to like the very first fight. Not quite yet, but like in a few seconds here. You see how much you're forced to keep whipping your aim around. You can't make correct decisions here, right? Part of it's your positioning, right? And part of it's because the enemies are splitting your attention, right? You have a Reaper fighting your junk. You have you fighting the Moira on point, and your Diva's fighting the Hog. This is kind of what, like, in principle, you want to be doing a lot of the times, right? Just diverting enemy attention away from your team is super valuable. And point 3, I'd say definitely use your cooldowns a bit more proactively, especially on an Illari. You had a hard time trying to look for a good spot to put your pylon, right? This is very important on the character, right? And even on Ana, very important again. Every single cooldown you have is pretty much a guaranteed kill if you use it wisely. So definitely keep that in mind. And again, I will say it's very beneficial to focus on just a few characters. I know if you want to have fun and you're playing with people, it's okay to play multiple different ones, but I think ultimately if you want to climb, focusing on like a core 2 to 3 hero selection is ideal. All right.